Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us on this awesome Friday for the latest Trade the Chain episode. We really appreciate it. It is August 12th, and I'm joined here by Nick Mancini, our Director of Research at Trade the Chain, as well as Doug, the Everyday Guy DeRosa, who speaks most people's language. Guys, how are you?
Doing well.
Doing well?
No complaints.
Excited that it's Friday?
Very excited that it's Friday.
All right, very cool. I see we got Lucas in the chat. So, hey, Lucas, how are you? Thanks for joining us, as well as Michael. Appreciate it. All right, so we got a bunch of stuff we're going to cover today. We're going to go over the macro market. We're going to go over the charts, break it down with Nick, and see what's happening. We had some data come out today, so he's going to talk to that and the direction of the price action, and then we're going to hit up a couple of news articles that really pique our interest. As you could tell from the title or any of the tweets, tornado cash, potato, whatever it is. One of the developers arrested over in Amsterdam, which is quite frankly just shocking everybody at this point. Voyager held a UCC town hall meeting yesterday. And the HOIBY founder wants to sell the exchange, and HOIBY's a big exchange, been around for a long time, and he owns 60% of it. But you may be shocked if you don't know who's in talks to buy it. So we're going to hit all that in just a few minutes, but right now we're going to head over to the macro environment. We have total market cap of 1.15 trillion. Bitcoin sitting just over 24K. Down just over a point. Ethereum just under 1900. Both are pretty neutral from compared to yesterday's video, where we had Ethereum in the 70s. It's now back down to 51 out of 100. So, hot us on Twitter. HOIBY token, obviously, from the news cycle, up 208% in the social volume, and it's up 20.5% in price. So, anybody holding that? Pretty good job. Anchor Network, if you saw the Trade the Chain tweet account this morning, it highlighted a trade chart from our sentiment dashboard on Anchor. It's down for the 24 hours to almost 4%, but yesterday it popped to 50%, and our members saw it when they saw the increase in sentiment. And not only was it an increase of sentiment before leading into the price action, it was like a gosh darn highway 10 miles long you had to prepare for that trade. But that was a 50% return. So a lot of Trade the Chain people commenting on that today. So really happy to see it. 24-hour gainers, ERG 21%, HOIBY token 20.25%. We go to the bullish coins, Anchor's in there. Still with a score of 90, still reeling off the news that Binance Labs invested into it yesterday. Cardano is still the most bearish coin of the last 24 hours. It was on the list yesterday. It has a low score of 15. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe Charles is just going through some bad times. I don't know. But Cardano, for all you 88 fans, down big on the sentiment score. We go over to the broad chart with the 1 hour prices. We can see everything right now is about neutral for the 1 hour change. Not a lot going on, red and green. Nick and I did take some positions this morning. I unfortunately can't steer the car in the right direction that the trend is going today, so I'm disappointed. Not a lot of bragging tweets out there today, but I know Nick, he had his conviction, he stuck with it, and turned out a good swing trade. So looking positive in that sector. Nick, are you happy from your trades today?
Well, I've not closed them, so I cannot confirm nor deny exactly how I feel just yet, as I do not want to jinx it. But currently, I am quite satisfied with the positions that I took this morning. I woke up and was a little bit weary about the markets, but given the strength in the S&P that we saw this morning, and kind of just shrugging off of we kind of had positive and negative information from the consumer sentiment stuff, i.e. University of Michigan survey, but we shrugged off kind of a less bullish predictive print for 12 months inflation. And I think that was actually when you went short. Is technically you were right in that exact moment. It just reversed a lot quicker than I think one would have expected. So I stuck. I mean, we've done this before too, where you've stuck it out and I've had my moment and vice versa. So I stuck that out, thinking that the sentiment would outweigh the prediction of the 12-month inflation, and that's clearly kind of what happened. But obviously, like, we need to stick that. And right now, it does seem that the S&P is at resistance. So if we don't continue to stick that bullishness, then my trade may not be as positive as it is right now. So
well, it was interesting. We were in the chat and we just set up our trades, and the news comes out, and I go, I said, hey, I'm going long, and whatnot. The dollar started going wonky. The DXY started going wonky.
Dollars look really weird today.
I started getting nervous. I was running around. I was hitting buttons, and Nick, he was cool, calm, and collected through the whole way. So I give him props. All right.
I took my mental health break and came back a little bit more calm. I mean, typically when you start looking at charts and like you just get anxiety looking at charts, you need to take your time off. And so fortunately, I shout out to the team for allowing me to take a small break and get back at it with a better and clearer mind. So I appreciate that.
Very cool. All right, let's share your charts and dissect them for us, please.
Oh yeah, I always forget to load that up. My apologies. Let's share a window. All righty, just throw it up whenever. Okay, so right now, the biggest story on the board right now, just given where we've been, is this right here. We telegraphed this to the Trade the Chain community. If we could flip 4,200 into support and firmly, into firm support, then there is a continued bullish, momentum play for, pretty much all markets. And so we start the 1 hour, we can see, we came off, we had that swing failure pattern, swept down. Now we're back at resistance. So, said this in the daily, call. Bulls want to see this flipped. We kind of really just need to move through this and potentially flip that level to support or just keep moving higher. Bears want to obviously see this cracked, and I think it's going to be tough to just slice through here. So it would not shock me to see us maybe move back towards 42.30, 42.40. But obviously, it's not to say that this move cannot have continued momentum. It's just going to get a lot more sketchy if you've not already placed a trade, considering, the main rule is that we love to follow is we don't typically long at resistance. We don't typically short at support. But in this scenario, as long as we get some consolidation above this 50 moving average on the 5-minute, then there's a play where we continue to break higher. And if that happens, obviously, I think we all kind of know Bitcoin is likely to move in that direction. So something I've been tracking for the past few days is these little mini trends along with these POCs. But, very similarly to how we talked the other day, is that we had this sweep under the trend. We caught the trend. We moved higher. Obviously, got a little bit tired at 25K. We swept under the trend again and we moved higher. So technically, this ascending triangle is still more or less in play. We had to sweep the lows. We swept the highs. We're still consolidating in the range. So really, I mean, at the end of the day, this is truly, if you've not placed a position, we are in a 50-50 battle. But I did tell the Trade the Chain community this morning that as long as this POC gets flipped into support, there's reason to believe that we head higher into the 24,000s. And really, this POC is more or less 24K, if you want to call it that for simplistic purposes. So as long as we can flip this and head higher, things are looking good. ETH obviously looks a lot stronger. We've been consolidating very well in this range, potential bull flag structure. Told the Trade the Chain community this morning as well, flip this POC, turn it into support. There's continued reason for bullish momentum. Obviously, I think our market maker overlords, want to induce max pain. And interestingly enough, we've seen some of our larger movements after the U.S. market close. So the fact that we've been moving a little bit higher, maybe consolidating above the POC, above the 50 moving average on the hour, that's still a good sign, in my opinion, for bullish momentum. just considering Ethereum's strength in the face of, wonky volatility from Bitcoin, as well as, whatever in the hell you want to call this on the S&P 500, because clearly there is a nice war going on and the bulls are starting to win. So, and then you tack on the fact that we've got a little bit bullish sentiment on Bitcoin, couple that with Ethereum, and then, I've been using my little weather vane here, Solana. And as long as this closes above the POC here, I kind of like this to try and break out of this kind of bear flag trend that we've been seeing. These POCs are more or less the gospel right now. Interestingly enough, we're seeing spot pick up as well in terms of purchases. That's very good. Overall, if we zoom out, perps are still leading spot, but if we start to kind of get a more local look at it, we are seeing some good spot buying happen, and that is definitely positive to see. Clearly, someone on Bitfinex has been offloading here, TWAPing maybe, but clearly Binance has been buying that as well. Interestingly enough, FTX has been kind of doing similar. So definitely want to see those pick up sooner rather than later. We're obviously seeing some FTX perp action. We're seeing some Binance perp action. We're seeing some Binance spot action. CB's buying. So I have a feeling that FTX and Binance or Bitfinex spot will come around as long as we can maintain above or around 4260 on the SPY headed into close. So my biggest thing is just based on all the weirdness that we've seen around US markets close is that, if you have a play, I would not leave it open and just, go and run off on your day without checking out how things happen when we do close today. Crypto does like to have more bullish weekends than not, especially in recent times. And if we have a strong S&P close, I would expect some continuation going in there, but I don't think anyone's going to make it easy. And I definitely think that it's not a time to be making passive plays unless you are truly bullish and you've got a great entry. But if you started entering today or you've been swinging and scalping intraday, definitely monitor what that close looks like in maybe the next 60 minutes, as you could see some very interesting things occur based on just what we've been watching all week. You're on mute, Alex.
You're on mute. It's a Friday.
I think that's how everybody wants it anyway. So, yeah. So the wonky markets, Bitcoin dominance still sitting low. We touched upon this the other day. Third lowest dominance number in the history of Bitcoin. Not just kind of sitting out there. We'll see. It's going to be interesting with the merge and see if any more building goes on with Ethereum. Let's hop on over.
Pull up my screen one more time. I think this is an interesting chart for everybody. This is USDT dominance. We talked about this the other day. It's only gotten lower since we talked about it. And this doesn't look like it's bullish to me because it's under the POC. It tapped it. We swept the highs, swept the lows, tapped the POC, and now we're moving lower, or implied moving lower. So, and this implies that there's going to be less USDT in the market, meaning that there's going to be more strong asset purchases.
Translates to less Bitcoin dominance. So
I mean, that's in relation to Bitcoin. Just like it's another way to look at the market because you're looking at Bitcoin dominance as potential strength in altcoins, as well as the fact that other things have high beta to Bitcoin. And this demonstrates that there is dry powder leaving the markets for hard asset purchases, meaning dollars are going into cryptos.
All right. Tornado, potato. The guy was so listen, what happened the other day was we heard all the news with OFAC and sanctioning the wallets, which is incredible to me because this really speaks to what's happening here is really speaking to a higher subject of privacy and certain freedoms that people want to have. The developer arrested in Amsterdam for writing code, essentially for writing code. This is such a debatable conversation to have, but I want to get your guys' feeling because you all know me. I'm a regulations bull at this point, if you want to speak about it like that. I mean, I think regulation is going to start coming down, encompassing everything. The market is going to have an impact because of it. Now we have developers being arrested for writing code on projects that may have money laundering, and of course it does. There was the big hack, the Ronin hack earlier in the year, 600 and something million stolen. Tornado Cash was used as a mixer for laundering some of that money, so it's well known. But where do we stop? And this is ridiculous. It kind of upsets me a whole lot, to be honest with you. Nick,
Yeah,
I know you don't launder money, but what's your thoughts?
I mean, I don't really. I need to look into it more because I'm certainly not an international law guy. But I mean, if the logic is you create software that facilitates money laundering, then where does that line draw? Where does that line stop? Is it like, do you have to put certain parameters, or do you have to attempt to put parameters in place to not be screwed? Because technically, any financial system allows the facilitation of money laundering or nefarious deeds. It's just about the guardrails in place. So is Vitalik up for arrest now? Are bank CEOs up for arrest now? If you have anything to do with developing software that facilitates the transfer of money, are you now under that microscope? So it's just, where does the buck stop? And I don't think that there's been no mention from what I can tell that this guy's like, I built this software so that random terrorists can funnel money around the globe. Like, I don't think that was the case. And there's plenty of use cases. I mean, it's the same thing with Tor browser, and the U.S. government created Tor to literally go through the internet undetectable, and now it's used by both government agencies for good and bad. Witness protection is very famously used for Tor. Like, if you're browsing the internet and you're like and you're at a danger for your life based on people chasing you, then internet cookies and small things can lead them to your doorstep. So people need privacy for a reason in certain scenarios. And I'm not saying that it clearly does look like the majority of what was Tornado ended up being used for was bad. I'm not saying that it was a net positive for society. I'm just saying the development of that software, there is always a reason to have private whatever happening on the internet, whether it's transactions, whether it's search history, whatever it is, there's always a reason for that. So just because someone picked up open source code and started to use it, I don't understand how you can get arrested for that based on current precedent and everything else we know about the usage of privacy related applications. It's mind boggling to me that the government uses pseudo applications like this, for the benefit of a certain small population of their citizens. But this guy's getting arrested for something because, allegedly North Korea used it to funnel some money. Or whatever. So I mean, we need to obviously hear more. The fact that the guy's under custody is, massive red flag, massive issue in my book.
My concern, Alex, and again, you don't know what's real on Twitter at times or whatnot, but somebody posted what you guys use, Didex, and he was trying to add money to his account through Tornado Cash.
He got banned.
Yeah, Didex wouldn't allow it. So that really is not that specific example, but the larger point or question, which is decentralization, right? Are we truly decentralized where people like this can be prohibited from trading or placing money with a given company just because those companies say, well, wait a minute, this is firewalled or whatever it is. We don't like the policies around this. So it does speak to decentralized. Are we ever going to be truly decentralized if a company that is decentralized has an authority or some face behind it saying, still choosing which accounts they can take and who they're going to do business with? So,
well, this is something that nobody understands unless you're actually a techie in the industry. And I was discussing this with people back in 2017, 2018. All of crypto runs on AWS. Now, how is that decentralized when one centralized company owns the majority of the servers that run all of the decentralized applications on the internet? Because Now, and I also saw another meme that was also funny to me, because anyone who was around in crypto in 2013, 14, 15, whether you're an observer or you were surfing around on Silk Road or whatever, I saw a meme was basically hackers back in 2010 where it was, crazy. It was decentralized servers and, in Somalia and Eastern Europe and all this with satellite servers running around so that there was no singular location. And then it was like today's hackers are spin up an AWS web server and pray that the government doesn't sanction you. And I was like, that's literally the difference in less than 10 years with the proliferation of cloud computing is nothing is decentralized because all of the crap that we use is on a server owned by a singular company that can snip that cord under any circumstance that they deem fit because it's related in their terms of service. So unless the crypto service that you are using specifically tells you that they own and operate their own servers that are spread around the globe with literal satellites spinning for absolute backups and true privacy so that they can keep spoofing IPs and such, then you're not decentralized at all. You're just using something that happens to depend on a large populace of consumers to help keep their economic system going, which is based on the token. So nothing that we use today is truly decentralized. It's just a bunch of nodes running on servers that are owned by one singular company. So if you want to call it decentralized, sure, one layer away from you is decentralized. But as you start going up to the top, it becomes quite obvious that there's a singular focal point, which is not decentralization. So there are people working on these things, but it's just funny that, where the industry's headed, we're just moving into a fragmented, centralized financial structure. And eventually it'll all look like it does now in another 100 years. And that's just
hence why Web3 is all the rage, right? One of the greatest applications that might come out of it might be decentralized cloud computing.
Yes, exactly. But at the end of the day, if decentralized cloud computing is also, who's maintaining the benchmark, who's maintaining the servers, who's maintaining that everybody's doing what they're saying. So there's a whole different, there's always going to be an argument and back and forth. And, unfortunately, we're not truly decentralized. But I have a feeling that privacy is going to become of utmost importance. Even Vitalik is now talking about how Ethereum can become more private, or how Ethereum can be changed or used in a certain way to obfuscate transactions and things like that. So I have a feeling that this privacy topic is going to come more in focus, which, from the topic of how do we make money from these things rather than yelling at clouds, is that privacy coins may be a little bit sexier, at least in the short term, as people start making the privacy coin trade, considering that, privacy is important. It could also go the other way. Maybe we start to see privacy coins come under attack. Maybe Zcash and Monero is banned by certain countries. There's the other side of that coin. There's your risk. So, but I have a feel the P word going to be talked about a lot more again. So.
Well, Doug's always trying to look at, my 182 MetaMask wallets to find out my balances and what I have in them. So anyway, it looks like this laundromat is closed. So moving on. If you missed it and you are a Voyager customer, Doug, the everyday guy, watched every minute of this video
intently
so that you didn't have to.
Yeah.
But there are some interesting points. If you did watch this video, there's some really interesting points that came out of it. This we're talking about is the Voyager UCC town hall that was held yesterday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And it is the Committee of the Unsecured Creditors. Lucas congratulated you for sitting through this crap. These are the people who are on our side if you're a Voyager customer. My takeaway is very positive. These are the folks that obviously lobbied for our USD to be released and things like that. But Doug, what happened yesterday that caught your eye out of this 1 hour long session?
Well, obviously everybody's looking for what's next. So next Thursday is a key date for Voyager. They will be filing what's called their schedule. So essentially what that does is that populates everybody's claim form. So that's going to show what your assets were, again, of the timestamp date.
Do we have to do anything as customers?
We don't know. So the only thing we would have to do, and the claims notice or ending period is October 3rd. So once you get this, after next Thursday, you'll get something emailed or mailed to you, which they said, which again will populate what your account looked like, right? Obviously, that's going to be most likely less USD at this point because you've probably received that. So if you have a dispute, if there's something not there, then you would work with the Stretto firm and they would handle that for you. If everything is all cool, you don't have to do anything. But if you do have to do something, you have to, amend it, so to speak, before October 3rd. So that officially, is that first leg of it. And as the gentleman said, which was kind of interesting, and just reading kind of off of the slide that they had, called highly illustrative plan options. So the great news is there's not going to be a
I can
fallout.
find that real quick.
Say again?
What's the minute mark?
That is at the 40-minute mark. So what's really great news for everybody is obviously it's not a full out liquidation, right? So if it was a full out liquidation, we all get pennies on the dollar and nobody's going to be thrilled about that. The thing that, so they're in option 2, Alex, if you bring that up on your screen, which is the liquidation sale. So again, that's kind of part and parcel where we've been already with FTX and that little dance that they did. We all know that's the worst case scenario at this point. They are courting other bidders. They can't obviously announce who that is at this point because that would harm, the creditors. But the takeaway that I wanted to mention, and again, this is my own opinion. Right now, people are saying there's winners and losers. There's winners because if you did convert money to US dollars, you've gotten that out or now getting that out. If you didn't do that and you're USDC and that still is a quasi form of kind of cash, but technically it's a crypto, those people are complaining like, wow, we're a loser and we may only get X on the dollar. So again, I think there unfortunately will be we're all a winner because it's not going to be full blown liquidation, but there will be some losers in this, so to speak. And my only beef with this, Alex, is option 2 and 3. So the liquidation sale, where a third party comes in, like an FTX or another suitor, is that it doesn't mention VGX at all. And so what they mentioned is that other suitor could come in whatever form of currency they have, right? They could use cash, they could use their own stock, or they could use their own native coin. We've done that obviously at Trade the Chain, where we pay for goods and services, and everybody other firm does if they have a native token. So that's a problem because if a firm that's acquiring has their native token, they probably don't have a use case for VGX. And then option 3, which is a reorg where Voyager stays in some form of iteration with Voyager involved or a third party. Again, it says potentially results in trading support for current coins on platform, possibly including VGX. So that's my concern would be the VGX aspect. I know a lot of people have VGX. It doesn't sound like it's as bright for VGX going forward. And again, that's just my 2 cents. I'm not trying to scare anybody. But
it scared the crap out of me. I got a freaking bag full.
But it does sound like it's going in a much better direction than people had hoped for originally when this news first broke, right? Everybody's like, oh crap, we're going to get nothing on the dollar. So we are going to get an amount. Again, everybody was speculating in that chat. If you go on YouTube, some people are saying 60% on the dollar, 70%. Again, it could be a combination of a lot. So it's still kind of unproven. The other thing too,
let's talk about this. Let's talk about this interim distribution slide that's up.
Well, I was just going to go to that. The other thing, and I'll bounce it to you after I speak about this, which was fascinating, was that the monies that have been clawed back from USD, everybody was saying, well, they got caught kind of with their pants down with the whole FDIC thing. And the committee pushed back on Voyager, it sounds like, and they determined not on the behest or the concept of the FDIC, but they said that monies were in structures called an FBO, for the benefit of account. And in a bankruptcy estate, that for the benefit of is the property of the estate, not Voyager any longer. So they were successful in clawing those monies back, but I don't think it was because people called up the FTC and complained. I think it was really just because of the structure that was in, which was the FBO. So that was a great job by the committee. They really pushed hard on behalf of the customers and they won. And again, they're pushing on behalf really for the best sale process. So I really like the guy, Derek, who led this panel for the most part. They really do look like they're going to do a great job for us. But again, the outcomes are still unknown, and they made that clear at this point.
Okay, so any talk in there about clawbacks? Well, people keep bringing up clawbacks, 90-day clawbacks, Celsius, Voyager. Did anybody talk about that? And what is that?
Well, they did say that a quarter, we'll call a company that's buying a quarter, right? So they're going to come in what they call the term consideration, which I guess is the fancy legal term of coming in with money to buy, right? So they're going to come in with some type of proceeds, right? They're not buying VGX for $1 because we know what Voyager was going to come in with. So maybe it's who knows? Maybe it's a couple $100 million. I have no idea. But that consideration again can be forms of different things. It could be cash. It could be cash in stock or security, just like you do in the traditional side. It could be a combination of cash, stock, security, and tokens. It could be a straight token, whatever it's going to be. They were saying that the creditors most likely will get a fair amount or perhaps all of that consideration. So we will get monies from the purchaser that's coming in. So that obviously is quite positive.
Okay. Now, one thing they didn't mention is the gap, the hole in the balance sheet, so to speak. And there's been some change in the market conditions. There's a lot of crypto assets being held. How have those assets changed? What the gap looks like between the end of June and today, or has it not?
Well, they didn't update where the coins being held by Voyager, which are customer deposits, right, what the aggregated amount appreciated to, because obviously the market's changed markedly in the last month and a half since this process started, right? So there's no difference in that. They were just referencing about the $500,000 hole that Voyager's in, which to Lucas's point about the transparency, the Celsius hole is much greater, obviously, than Voyager's. A hole is still a hole at the end of the day, right? But this is a hole that, in my opinion, is probably narrowed because the customer deposits have appreciated. But they didn't give a real time saying, okay, this is where the financial snapshot is as of August 11th. It was still, as you see on your screen, as of June the 30th.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for that, Doug. And thank you for sitting through the video without any butter on your popcorn. Massively appreciated. All right, so here's another interesting one. HOIBY, the head guy over there, who owns about 60% of the exchange. And HOIBY's been around a long time. Huge exchange. 60%, as you can see, is about $1 billion. So not chump change. And he feels he's done his time. He's ready to get out and whatnot. That's not really what the interesting part of this is. And by the way, congrats to the guy, selling. But it's who wants to buy it. Okay. Justin Sun and Sam Bankman-Fried. And I don't know. Maybe you guys have heard Sam Bankman-Fried's name before. Your Voyager customer.
He's usually in our comment section.
It is. Right. Where is he today?
We have Sam Bankman-Fried in our comment section every single day. Today he's not there, and we're talking.
He's on vacation. Today's Friday. Come on, he's on his yacht. In the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So this is interesting, and I want to get your take on this, Nick, particularly on how it could affect capital markets, not just with HOIBY, but with other assets that SBF has mentioned he's going to buy. And I don't even think SBF drinks, but he sounds like me on a drunken rant when he starts talking about buying stuff. It's ludicrous sometimes.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. He's back.
Sam Bankman-Fried's in the
He commented. He heard his name. He heard his name as the hair on the back of his neck stood up, and he
literally his hair.
He knew where to come.
Literally talking about this guy,
he just commented off of his jet ski. So I mean,
how could it affect the markets? Like people like us who are in the trenches.
I mean, I really don't think that it's majorly impactful. It's just I think the way that Sam Bankman-Fried is probably thinking about these things is just international expansion and how he can take over other markets easily. No one in the US is using Quobi. I'm pretty sure it's a predominantly Asian exchange, and I would assume that given Binance's shadow over that market. It seems that FTX is US covered, Binance has a lot of Asia covered, and then the rest are kind of filling in random gaps, and whales obviously use cross liquidity across platforms depending on what's happening, arbitrage, yada yada yada. So and I don't think that this is going to impact price action, but I think it does offer the opportunity that Sam Bankman-Fried's control is going, his grip on the industry is going to get tighter, and he is coming for other market sectors lunch. I have a feeling that this would just make sense, that someone wants to come for CZ and try to take some of that market share. And I think HOIBY is probably a pretty good step to absorb the name, absorb the 100%. Brand, absorb all the liquidity, rebrand it, very intelligently, and market the crap out of it. So it wouldn't shock me if this deal goes through. But it's interesting that we're seeing this much M&A. Usually a lot of M&A in a bear market spells a lot of, activity in the bull market as well. We saw this in 2018, 2019, the M&A was heating up, and then all of a sudden it was, deals were 10, what was the deal numbers were like 5-10x what they were like the previous year. And then it was like, oh my God, we're definitely in bull. So the fact, I don't see it as a bad thing unless you're anti FTX SBF. But, in terms of market signals, when we see this much M&A, good things are typically on the horizon. So
Alex, do you think, and Sam, don't yell at me in the chat, do you think he's doing this to save face a little bit? Because he did kind of,
no.
Because the Voyager people kind of,
he doesn't, because this isn't a savior situation, right? Listen, frankly, I don't care. He if he cares, right. He had that rant on Twitter once, and that was it. That was the last we heard about it. Does a guy who's worth 20 billion sitting in the Bahamas really care? No, he just wants to spend his day on the water and watch our show.
He just told me to stop in the chat, so yeah, I'll stop, Sam. I'm sorry.
So I mean, now are people starting to lose trust in him though as a major contributor? It's come out he's a major contributor politically. He has a lot of money at a very young age. I don't know. I don't know where this goes from a reputational standpoint. I think the problem that people may have is this whole Justin Sun thing. There hasn't been a lot of trust with Justin Sun in a long time, from a macro level. Nick, what are your thoughts on Sun and him getting his hands on a clean entity, so to speak? I mean, is he just tarnish everything?
He's literally called His Excellency. Like he has that official title. That he's all bark, no bite though. Like the dude loves to talk. I have no doubt that he's more than likely one of the richest crypto individuals on the planet. But he's all bark, no bite. Like he doesn't know how to make a deal for his life, and he certainly doesn't have the chops and the power that SBF does. Like Sun got rich off of a crappy blockchain and a bunch of just randomness, and SBF was literally grinding for the past decade, doing every intelligent, investor activity to make it so that he would continue to stay in power once he claimed the title. So I would, in terms of better businessmen, I think SBF, but in terms of a better personality, Justin Sun. So they're I don't even really know how to call them. Like I don't know. One's kind of like a Larry Ellison. One's kind of like a Mark Cuban. Like. They're,
what are you saying? If you put them together, it might work.
Yeah, I honestly, I would love to see them in a room together, just like debating crypto in general. But Sun, literally, he talks and I eye roll, and SBF talks, and I have to think in 10 different directions on what kind of, what his actual plan is versus on what he's saying. So, I would assume that SBF would more than likely get this deal done, but Justin Sun has been saying he has a shit ton of money to throw around. So I would.
Well, he does.
If he doesn't throw it around, then someone's going to start calling him out,
I agree with you. I think he's probably one of the wealthiest individuals in crypto. He really got over a lot with the Tron back in the day. I remember 2017 going to Consensus, and he literally paid to have his picture like 40 feet tall on every single window around the conference exterior. That's when I first didn't like him. Then he also, Poloniex, when he bought Poloniex Exchange, he bought Poloniex back in 2018 That was a really good up and coming exchange, and he just went and it was oh shit, now I'm acting like an idiot. Those days are so old. Circle it was Circle who owned Poloniex, right? Yeah. And he bought it off of Circle. They were divesting out of the exchange operator business. And he ruined it. Like, I mean, volumes just went down. Nobody wanted to trade on it really anymore. And it kind of just stunted its growth into what could have been a really great regulated U.S. exchange. But them's the breaks, man. Listen, it's 2:40 Eastern time.
Speaking of exchanges, S&P futures are above 4260. They skyrocketed while we were talking.
Don't make
Bitcoin,
me
ETH, and Solana slightly up since we started talking as well.
Yes, so. I'd like to say my reverse long trade is now in the money very nicely.
There we go.
I may have a bragging tombstone today and pull out of this funk. But I am sitting on a Caribbean island on a Friday, and it's really beautiful out, and so I don't want to stay here too long. Anyway, don't forget. Nick did his daily show today, Monday through Friday. Please hit the link at the top of the live chat. I pinned our free actionable newsletter. It's free. It's absolutely free, but it's absolutely actionable. You will not get bored. You can make money off that newsletter. And once you sign up there, you also get all of our weekly stuff, whether it's coins on the move or our daily recaps. So stay tuned for that. I actually am about to close out of this freaking trade. Do you see what's going on? Look at this candle.
I saw we had a nice little spike. Oh, wow.
Yep, I'm closing out. And
I
just made a crap of money and made up for all my losses. And with that, I will say goodbye. Hang on to your handlebars. Enjoy your weekend. Lucas, I love you. Crypto Man, SBF, respect to you as well. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you Monday.